Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing of South Florida. You can see the just two of us tonight. As of right now, we could be getting Ian jumping in eventually if one of his 82 kids goes to sleep. We could be getting Ellie jumping in. She's probably dog sitting. She dog sits more than anybody I know. And Ben, last I heard, he was lifting weights, but I don't know. Anyway, very glad to have Scarps with me tonight. Ryan, how you doing tonight, man?
Not too bad. We're like the Steelers injury report on a Wednesday, circa week 12. We're limited.
We are very limited, and many others are questionable, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
For sure. But man, there's a lot to cover, and unfortunately, this is our first show since the very tragic passing of Dwayne Haskins, and we'll get into that. I don't want to get into it just yet, just because if Ian and Ellie or maybe even Ben jumps on, I do want to get their thoughts too, and but we're going to discuss that in a minute here. The idea tonight is we'll get back into the draft prep and we'll talk a little defensive line stuff, maybe some linebackers too. But today is also 5 years since Mr. Rooney, Dan Rooney, passed away back in 2017, and you've shared some stories with me and a couple others of your experiences with him, and what are some of those lasting things? And I'll turn it over to you while I bring Ian on board here.
Yeah, and the easiest way to describe it is he was the best. He was just awesome. He was so blue collar, and my first or second week on the job back in 2010, he introduced himself. We chatted for a little bit, and he said, "Hey, I might need you later to take me to my doctor's appointment." And I didn't know if he was joking or not. Like, it was like, I mean, I didn't know. So like, I went to my boss, and he's like, "Yeah, you should probably do that." I'm like, "All right." So he got in my car, which is the same car I had until actually the 2002 Oldsmobile Intrigue. If it's good enough for Mr. Rooney, it's good enough for you.
So let's just stop right there. The owner of one of the 32 National Football League teams needs to go to the doctor and has no problem jumping in with you in your car. He doesn't take a limo. He doesn't call for a car. He doesn't have a company car. He jumps in with you.
Yeah, I mean, I asked about 35 people if I could borrow their wheels that day. No, and I even said, I was like, "Do you have a car? Do you have a driver?" He's like, "No, we'll take yours." I'm like, "All right, sounds good." And I literally remember being like, "I don't really have a nice car or anything like that. I'm a minimum wage 23-year-old right now." And he's like, "It's all right as long as it gets us there." And we went to McGee. Actually, he had a checkup at McGee Women's Hospital, oddly enough, but he had a checkup at McGee.
Right.
We bonded on the way there, on the way home, and that sort of was the start of a 7-year relationship that often involved me driving him to and from places, which I don't care. I got to drive Mr. Rooney around, but he never made it feel like that. It was never like, "Hey, like I'm a cabbie," or like I'm the Uber before Uber, like I'm the Uber or Lyft driver. It was always like, "Hey, let's go for a ride." And I mean, literally, he'd say that. I'm like, I'd literally text my boss, like, "I'm taking Mr. Rooney somewhere. I have no idea where the hell we're going." And a lot of those times it was to and from. I drive him to and from from the airport for all the away games. So, we didn't really talk much about football. We talked about life. He was always, he always cared about my family. My girlfriend eventually became my wife, and yeah, of course. And I tweeted today, like, yeah, there were plenty of times where it's like, we could stop their quarterback to save our lives, but like, like it was never, he was just so down to earth, and he was just so humble and so cool, and like, I don't know. I don't know any other owners, right? I don't know Bob Nutting. I don't even know if it's probably it's blasphemy to say is Mario still the owner of the Pens, but like I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know those guys personally, but like
Yeah.
I really have a hard time believing Bob Nutting is sort of operating in the same way. And the reason why he did it is because, and this is a year after looking back on 5 years, he wanted to be involved. He never wanted to be just he just always wanted to be in tune with his staff and his, not just his football staff, but his coaches, his scouts, his
Right.
personnel, and that's what has made the Steelers arguably the most successful franchise over the past 50 years, because they don't treat it as like a hierarchy. They treat it as just like, hey, we're all in this together, and I don't care what you do here, you're part of the team. And again, he was so cool. And cheers to Mister. He's probably, it's not Irish whiskey, but so be
Absolutely.
it. But
Well, I've got Irish whiskey tonight, and I do want to welcome in Ian.
Ian, way to
welcome
be.
in.
I made it. Got my kids all asleep.
Ian, do you have any Dan Rooney recollections or anything as we remember 5 years since he passed?
I mean, I obviously don't have any personal stories like Ryan does, but I think, the biggest things that always stood out were just the consistency, the stability, and the family atmosphere kind of that he instilled around the team. You had guys coming from all over. I mean, like Ike Taylor came from Southern Louisiana, and I mean, he went to Louisiana Lafayette for school, but I like deep South kid, and like they just had this bond together that was like, it was kind of something incredible.
It was.
That, yeah, and I think like Ryan said, that kind of treating everyone in the building like family. That it wasn't, well, I'm the owner and you're the intern in the PR department. It's, hey, it's kind of that familial atmosphere of, like we're all part of the Pittsburgh Steelers family, and we're gonna take care of people. And I think that's why, you see a lot more Steelers alumni, even people who are just here for 1 or 2 years, feel so tied to the organization, and guys that want to retire as Steelers. That, like, remember, who was it? Like Cordell Stewart, Santonio Holmes, Rod Woodson, even, guys who went and played, and some of them, Holmes was successful for other teams.
Yeah.
Woodson was very successful for other teams,
right.
Won a Super Bowl with another team, but retired and went into the Hall of Fame as a Steeler. I mean, I think that speaks to something beyond just the coaching staff. It's the whole structure that the Rooney family has put together over the years, and Dan was a huge part of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, it's your comments, and then Ryan's personal stories of it. I just listening. I just picture like what's going on with Washington and Dan Snyder right now. We really are so fortunate to have ownership that is what they are.
I'll do a quick Mr. Rooney story to not only show how much he meant to the Steelers organization, but just how impactful he was in Pittsburgh. So and I might have told this story here, but so what? You're going to listen to it twice. But he did a book. He wrote a book about 7 years ago now, and it was about the North Side and in that area. And he did a book signing tour, and one of his stops was the Carnegie Library on the North Side, and it was on Federal Street, but it was a little bit higher, and it wasn't in the best area of the neighborhood. And I drove him and Mrs. Rooney to the location. And when we got out, there was a little dispute going on across the street, which happened to be at a liquor store. So there's folks arguing back and forth, and Mrs. Rooney said, "Ryan, do you think we're okay?" And I said, "As soon as he gets out of the car, everything's going to be fine." And he literally got out of the car, and like people were screaming at one another, and they're like, "Hold on a sec. Hey man, it's Mr. Rooney." And they all walked across the street. I don't know what they were arguing about.
Right.
They all walked across the street. They all shook his hand. and said, "Thank you so much." And he was like, "Hey, what's going on? How's everybody doing?" I mean, he held court for about 2 minutes, and then we went to the library, and as we're walking to the library, they started yelling again.
Of course.
But like he was just that guy. Like he was just,
Yeah.
and again, the fact that he was so humble and down to earth, like it's like, we got out of a 2002 Oldsmobile Intrigue, and it's the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then like they knew it, like, oh shit, like, it's Mr. Rooney. But he just, like, it didn't matter where we were, who we were with. He always took the time to talk to Steelers fans. He always took the time to talk to people. It didn't matter where we were, and that's not something that an owner or whomever at this point, we don't really have the best conversation skills, but Mr. Rooney, cheers again. He was a great guy.
Yeah, no, it's great. I the whole time you're explaining that, I can just visualize everything happening, and it probably happened as I was seeing it. Just see him, and everybody realizes who it is. Let me move to the unfortunate passing of Dwayne Haskins here. First, I guess what I want to tell both the listeners and the viewers is that I don't have any intention of trying to discuss what happened or anything like that. There's still a lot of that coming out. There are still questions. What we simply know is that Dwayne was in South Florida with a number of guys on the offense, quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, receivers. They were getting together, meeting Mitch and Trubisky, working out together. And they went out, and next thing we know, Dwayne's gone. And like I said, I'm not going to get into any of that stuff because I don't know, and it's not proper anyway. What I would say is, Dwayne did have a presence in the community that he was pretty passionate about. He was working on it, and I know Coach Tomlin mentioned some of those things as well. His growth as a person was a big part of that growth, was getting in the community with some of the other players and working with kids and people in the community. And, one of the things that he was passionate about was he loved dogs. And so I've got it going on our scroll down here at the bottom. It's WTArescue.com, and that stands for Wolf Trap Animal Rescue. And what they do is they try to keep dogs, especially in the South, from being euthanized. They try to find them homes, and so if you're so inclined, send a donation there. I know some people have. I heard Bill's Mafia has already been sending, and Bill's Mafia is amazing. They send donations everywhere. And I'll be sending some tomorrow on behalf of Steel City Blitz, and we'll get to the football side here in a minute, because that's the sad part. There is a football side still. So Ian, I'll kind of turn it over to you for a minute. Just what are your thoughts here about everything that's kind of transpired since Saturday morning?
Yeah, I mean I'm going to try and get through this in complete sentences. What happened is a tragedy for everyone involved. Obviously, for Dwayne, for his family, for his friends. I also feel bad for the other drivers on the road too, because as the few details that we know, it happened somewhere probably between 6 and 6:30 in the morning ish, when it's still pretty much dark, and walking out into a highway of cars moving very quickly, that the drivers certainly weren't at fault here. No one's really at fault. It's just a terrible tragedy that happened. And, I would just say that, as more details come out about this, because I'm sure more will, like, I'd implore Steelers fans just to try and remember the human side of things. And it's like, this is terrible for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
No one wanted to be in this situation. so, try not to point fingers at people. It wasn't necessarily anyone's fault. And I think to kind of go back to what we talked about with Mr. Rooney, that with the sort of the strength of the Steelers organization is the familial family atmosphere that they've built, and things like this you can only get through with family. Like, they're the ones that help you get through tough times. And so as potentially we learn more as the police investigation wraps up, just kind of don't turn your back on each other. Don't start pointing fingers, which I know is really easy to do on social media and things like that. But try and keep in mind the human side of it, that it's not that we lost a football player, it's that we lost a genuinely good human being. I mean, everyone who seems to have talked about him, off the football field, talked about all the good things he did, all the, some of the leadership capacities that he brought to the locker room, the things that, guys who had just played with him for a year as, the third string quarterback, talked about the influence and impact that he had on him. He kind of had that presence. Yes, he brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, during his career at Ohio State with what he did on the field. But additionally, he brought a lot of joy to a lot of people off the field too, with all the work that he did in the community and all that stuff too. So, it's just, like I said, a terrible tragedy all around for everyone involved.
Yeah. Ryan, give me your general thoughts too, and then I would add to that, only because I can't remember because I'm old. Did the Steelers go through anything similar to this in terms of a player while you were there?
No. Mr. Rooney passed, but it wasn't sudden, or like, this is and I wasn't obviously there for when Daryl Drake, rest in peace, passed away a couple training camps ago. It's really sad. It's sad all around. As Ian said, I feel for Dwayne's family, friends, and teammates, and I feel for anybody that might have witnessed what happened. And at this point, I feel for the person that hit Dwayne. You think about how many times in life you just escaped something, right? How many times in your life have you been like, wow, like if this person went this way, I would have been screwed. And so it's just so sad, but it puts in perspective how sort of fragile life is. And again, I feel for everyone that's involved. And I mean, nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. And the thing I think, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to talk about the past a little bit because I think it's important. Dwayne Haskins had a sort of a negative reputation, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that as in he was portrayed negatively. Obviously, being a first round pick. Literally, he was a first-round pick that went to one of the least stable franchises ever. And I say this all the time. When you get drafted, it's super important what team you go to.
No doubt about it.
I don't even necessarily know if he should have been drafted in the first round. And that's no disrespect to him, but I'm just saying he was drafted first round by the Redskins at the time. And stuff comes out. He's not taking things seriously. He violated COVID protocols. And then I just sit there and think that we were all kids at one point. And listen, I know a couple years ago that was a negative term, kids, even though Ben said it and Kevin Colbert said it, but in reality, they're kids. I mean, we were all that age at one point, and even though we were technically able to buy liquor and serve our country, that doesn't mean we're not immature or not not developed at that certain age. So,
well, and you add in that someone gave him, or teams give kids like $5 million.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
19, 20-year-old kids. What, you
Right.
get that kind of money at that age, like.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be doing. And listen, and this is the thing. Like, we're at that time, we were probably all like, "How could he violate COVID protocols?" And I'd be doing the same thing. Like we all act high and mighty on social media. Anyway,
Absolutely.
but getting back to it, the thing that upset me the most was that this was still a kid that got a second chance, and I'm all about second chances because we all make mistakes, but he got a second chance with an organization that was stable, with an organization that had a really good coach that believes in young players messing up, but being able to sort of mold them into young men. And I said this the other day, every single Steelers community event photo, Dwayne Haskins was there. And believe me or not, it doesn't matter whether it's Ben Roethlisberger or any Steeler. If you're a Steeler and you show up to a community event, that's a big deal. It's a huge deal. You're a Steeler. That's all that matters. But the fact that like he was at all of these events, I'm like, okay, like I didn't have a problem to begin with Dwayne, but like it's like, wow, he's trying. He's trying to turn his image around. He seems like he's committed.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just all taken away from him in that instant. And that's again, like life is so fragile. And this is you've probably seen this video, but like Stephen Colbert asked Keanu Reeves what happens when we die. He asked him that on a show. Keanu Reeves said, "The ones that love us will miss us." And I think Colbert wanted him to say something different, maybe something a little bit more religious or spiritual. But like, if you think about it, the outpouring of support and just love for Dwayne Haskins over these past 4 or 5 days has just been tremendous. And it's just like, it's just so sad because like and I'm not going to sit and like, we want to talk about football.
Yeah.
I don't know what his football future held, but it sure sounded like he was a good person and a good teammate. And that's what makes it even more sad.
And that's what I've heard a lot over the last 4 or 5 days. A lot of great, memories of his smile, of his presence. And I think the lesson, maybe besides the obvious and that it can all go in an instant, is that, somebody, as you pointed out, Ryan, that had this kind of reputation, coming out of Ohio State, maybe didn't work hard enough, maybe he didn't do this, you can still be a good person. And I think that's what he was in the middle of doing, was not only rehabbing himself as a player, but definitely as a person too. And so we send out our best to his wife and family and friends. Obviously, there will be a memorial in Pittsburgh on April 22nd. And his wife has basically said, fans, teammates, whomever, please come out for that kind of a thing. And so I'm sure a little more will come, but that was released by the Steelers today. And unfortunately, there's a business side that has to keep going. And we'll talk briefly about that in just a second. I want to remind everybody, this is the SCB Steelers Podcast, presented by DEK Roofing of South Florida. DEK serves Broward and the southern Palm Beach counties. Whether it's commercial, industrial, residential, multifamily, or condo, contact DEK Roofing today by visiting dekroofing.com. I think most of us were under the impression the Steelers were probably going to draft a quarterback. Does the fact that Dwayne Haskins is gone, Ian, does this make them much more likely to draft a quarterback, or what do you think?
Oh, you really put me on the spot here.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I honestly, looking at it from a purely football standpoint,
Yep.
I don't think it changes the equation a whole lot.
Okay.
They have carried 4 quarterbacks on the roster before. I think they liked what they saw in Haskins with his potential during the preseason last year. I think at the same time they brought in Mitch Trubisky to be the starter. The way I was kind of looking at it was that if they drafted a quarterback in the first round, that Trubisky would be the starter, Mason and Haskins would be competing for the number 2 spot, and whoever lost it was either going to get traded or cut. And then the rookie would kind of be the number 3 to have kind of a redshirt year. Because I think we've all kind of agreed there's no quarterback in this class that's really ready to come in and start day one. Kenny Pickett's probably the closest to it, but that's also, I saw somebody tweeted out today a list of the oldest prospects in the draft, and he was like 3rd or 4th on the list at like almost 24 years old. That, he has a lot more experience than some of these other guys do. Even a guy like Des Ridder, Malik Willis definitely needs some time.
Right.
Matt Corral needs some time. Carson Strong, who knows how much time he has on his knees. But yeah, so at any rate, the way I was kind of looking at it, obviously before this kind of terrible tragedy happened, was that I was kind of thinking that there might be some trade value for Mason, like after the draft, if somebody didn't get a quarterback, once you start to go through training camp, if a quarterback gets hurt, maybe someone trades a 6th round pick for him or something. And then you roll with, Trubisky is your 1, Haskins is your 2, and your rookies on the roster too, or you just carry all 4 and kind of see what happens. So I don't think, big picture, I don't think this changes the Steelers draft strategy a whole lot. They've been very heavily all in on this quarterback class the whole scouting period, to an extent that I don't know if I've ever seen them kind of project their interest in a certain position as much as this. That and some of it's just a numbers game, right? That you don't know who's going to be there when you pick. You want to make sure you have good scouting on all 6 of the top all the top 5 or 6 guys. So you want to spend as much time with them as possible. But even the years when, like, we knew we needed an outside linebacker, or we knew we needed an inside linebacker, they looked at a lot of other positions too. They were not as heavy on, like, look where Tomlin and Colbert went on the pro days. It was pretty much just the quarterbacks, and then a couple other of the big schools that they always go to, like your Alabamas, your Clemsons, places like that. So, they're very, very heavily into this quarterback class. So, long answer to your question, I don't think it changes it. But they do like to have 4 quarterbacks in camp, just to kind of roll all the scout teams and everything through. So, whether that means they sign somebody else off the free agent market, they pick up another undrafted free agent, Duck Hodges kind of guy that they never expect will actually play, and then somehow has to play. But yeah, I don't think it changes the quarterback equation.
Okay. Ryan, I'll just throw the same question to you. Does it change a little bit about what they're doing, or is it just pretty much plowing forward?
Yeah, Ian, I agree. I agree with your point. I think now that, obviously unfortunate accident, tragedy, and I look at them maybe leaning more towards a quarterback first round than maybe they were going to. I don't know that though. That's just my inkling. But then bringing in an undrafted free agent, so you have your 4 quarterbacks, and for as far back as I could remember, they always had 4 quarterbacks in training camp. Like, that's just their style. That's just the way it is. And then they always carry 3 during the regular season. That third usually not getting a hat on game day. you know, it just, again, we go back to the unfortunate thing is that, you know, depending, and we'll never know, but you know, if this didn't happen, maybe they don't
Right.
necessarily lean heavily on a quarterback, and Dwayne is the 2 or 3. Like that's the other thing too. It just sucks because we're never
Just
going to get to
no.
know um, what he could have become in this sort of newly formed persona, and it just sucks. But yeah, like Ian said, I don't know if it necessarily changes their overall strategy, but I do expect them to add 2 quarterbacks in some form or fashion before training camp.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think it's going to be fascinating because I really think the quarterbacks are going to come off the board quicker than most people think. I think Pickett and Willis will probably come off the board before we get a chance, and then that puts us on the spot a little bit because if we truly like one of those guys, does Ritter become the guy at 20? Do you risk not taking him and hoping that maybe he's there at 52? I don't believe that's going to happen.
52.
No, I don't think so either. So
No.
I'm curious to see how it breaks down. Let's just put it that way. Let me real quickly just go back here and make sure I discuss our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, of course, associated with the Pigskin Podcast Network here. And, football season's obviously over, but the NBA playoffs mean next level basketball. So get ready for all the action by betting the play-in tournament with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets instantly. You can clinch a win no matter what. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN. Bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game during the play-in tournament. Get $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code TPPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Before we jump into the draft stuff, gentlemen, there is a question from last week's show. And Ian, I'm going to throw this to you.
Yes.
This comes from Mr. Hammers. And allow me to put on my spectacles to read this.
Hammers.
Hammers. He says, hey, gents, quick question. With the rise of the cap each year projected to be about 20% with streaming deals and whatnot, do you think draft picks will still hold their value, or will free agency be the answer in team building? Ian?
So I'm always a big proponent of draft and develop players and then pay the guys that you're able to develop that you've had in-house, because and that's kind of been the Steelers' philosophy for years.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, as the cap goes up and as contracts balloon to these gigantic things we've got wide receivers now that are getting paid more than like quarterbacks were, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like top level quarterbacks. It's insane. So, the draft picks I think will almost have more value because the biggest market inefficiencies are going to be the guys that are still on their rookie contracts, right? As long as the collective bargaining agreement still has that rookie wage scale in it that says you're a draft pick, this is where you got picked, this is what you get paid for the first 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is. And actually first round picks have some more value because you have the 5th year option, right? That's why you see teams trade up into the tail end of the first round and draft quarterbacks or whatever it is, because you get that 5th year option with those picks. The value of that 5th year option is worth a lot more than taking maybe the same guy a couple picks later in the second round. So it's worth it to trade up. I think draft picks will actually have more value because right now and this has been true for years, but
Mhm.
the biggest market inefficiency in the NFL is a quarterback on their rookie contract, because once you have to pay a quarterback, I mean, Oakland just today, or Vegas, whoever they are, the fucking Raiders today, gave Derek Carr a 3-year extension with basically an average value of $41 million.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's an extension. He has 1 year left, so it's really 4 years, and you can play with the numbers. They could essentially cut him after 1 year because of how the guaranteed money is structured.
Mhm.
But nevertheless, I mean, when you give a guy, $120 million for 3 years, like, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
insane amount of
Yeah.
money.
Yep. It
So,
is.
considering you could
Not-
draft a rookie, and I know what Ryan's gonna say, not a premier quarterback, Derek Carr.
No, I was going to say not insane if you want to pay me that amount.
Well,
Right.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, considering you could draft a rookie and pay him a fraction of that for the next 3 or 4 years, but the gamble is he going to be any good, right? That
Of course.
it's a quarterback-driven league. You need a quarterback to win, and the premier quarterbacks cost a shit ton of money. It just is what it is. But the teams that mostly, I'll say, have been successful you've seen a lot of teams make deep runs in the playoffs when they had quarterbacks on a rookie contract, that they were able to sign some other guys in free agency and use that money. And once the quarterback got their big contract, then teams weren't able to sign as much in free agency. So the cap going up will help a little bit,
Right.
but quarterbacks and these premier players are still going to demand such a big chunk of your cap. I mean, think about what we're going to be paying TJ Watt. Think about what some teams are paying some other guys. That it's you're going to have your couple premier players per team with the monster contracts, and then everything else you're going to have to fill in as best you can. So
Yeah.
I'm giving a lot of long answers tonight. But
Well,
the long answer is that draft
Yeah.
picks are still going to have value.
And Baltimore's dealing with it now because Lamar Jackson's coming towards the end of his rookie deal, and there's going to be hell to pay there. So, I think it's a good answer. And Hammers, thank you for watching, listening, and all that stuff. We hope we're entertaining you. Ben, welcome in as he sucks down his nutritious shake there just before he starts pounding some whiskey. What the hell's he listening to?
I don't know, but we can all hear it.
Yeah. What are you listening to? What an ass. He's here just in time for draft talk. We're going to start talking defensive line, maybe linebackers tonight as well. We did have a little Irish whiskey / beer toast to Mr. Rooney, 5 years since he passed. So, sláinte. All right. Defensive line. Jordan Davis is sitting there at 20. Is he the pick?
Who else is on the board?
Well, of course, that's the factor. Look, we really like Dane Brugler at The Athletic, who puts out his freaking draft guide, which is almost 300 pages. And, he's got Davis second behind his teammate Devonta Wyatt. And then Travis Jones is a kid I really like out of Connecticut. Those three guys are thought to be your top interior guys.
I think
yeah,
given Davis's ability to play nose as well as he could, the value might be higher for the Steelers, because this guy can rush if you want him to.
Mm-hmm.
He can two gap
mm-hmm.
all game long if you want him to. He can do whatever you need him to do. He's got good straight line speed. He's not a guy like Casey Hampton, and he was early in his career.
Yeah.
He could run to the sideline. And Davis really isn't that guy. But in terms of like straight line speed, just rushing the passer, oh yeah. He's going to give you that. And he can throw the center out of the way. He's that strong. He's that big and that strong. So
yes.
I think the value in terms of internal pressure and being able to stop the run from the base defense, as well as playing defensive tackle in a four-man front, really increases the value for the Steelers. Now, I like Wyatt better as a 4-3 tackle.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't – I mean, Steelers kind of play that, but not exactly.
So just to kind of get what you're saying, some teams will value Davis. The Steelers could value him differently based on what he can do for their defense.
Right.
Yeah. They've got to address the run problem, obviously.
God, you think?
I mean, I know, Mr. Obvious, right?
Yeah.
They've got to address it.
The big question is availability, right? If Tuitt and Alualu are playing, defensive line is not as much of a need, right?
Because
your depth chart, I can talk tonight. Depth chart then becomes, Hayward, Alualu, Tuitt is your top line. Wormley, Adams, Loudermilk is your second three. You're
just thinking about this year, and that's not the way they draft.
Right. No, I know.
True.
I mean, Alualu is 35, and you got to take that into consideration. He's close to done. I don't think he's getting another contract.
No, he's not. He's not.
And you look at guys like you mentioned before. I mean, it depends on who else is there. Now, I mean, the practical reality of the situation is this. They have 2 quarterbacks under contract now. So they have to bring in another one somehow, some way. And their backup, if he does not win the starter's job this year, is going to want out. He's not going to want to come back. So they got to replace him too.
Mm-hmm.
Mason Rudolph.
Right.
Ryan is a huge fan of, but,
you're a fucking dick.
Every week with this asshole.
It's likely
I still love you, though.
that Mason is gone after this season unless by some miracle he proves all of us wrong. Well, God bless him if he can do it. He proves all of us wrong and turns out to be a capable NFL starter. He's probably done after this season. So they've got a huge need at quarterback now.
So if we go back defensive line, though, you're talking about Alu. I have the same concern with Tuitt, to be real honest with you. I mean, I don't know what to expect of him.
I think.
I mean, I think
he'll be back is the Steelers know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I think they probably do.
They're keeping they're playing their cards close to the vest because it makes it more difficult for teams to guess what they're going to do over the course of the draft.
Right.
And that's fine. I respect that. But yeah, if they don't know if Tuitt's coming back, then they've got to play it as though he's not. And on top of that, you have a 35-year-old Tyson Alualu.
Yep.
So, yeah, you got a need.
Yeah. No, I can't argue. Ryan, I know you've been doing your homework. Who are some guys you've been looking at here? Defensive line.
We'll get to that in a minute. I'm a later round guy, but no.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
But no, I do think Tyson Alualu is older. And Cam Hayward's getting older too.
Still super productive though.
No. I'm just saying.
What is he, 30? He'll be 32?
Cam is 31 or 32. Tyson's older, but
35. Yep.
Yeah, but and I'm going to bring this up. I don't know if it matters or not. I'm just going to say that Stephon Tuitt recently lost his brother due to an unfortunate accident involving an automobile and maybe I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying that the Dwayne Haskins situation might play into his thought process of returning. I don't know if he's coming back or not. Regardless, I look at Jordan Davis and experts use that term loosely or closely, whatever way you want, compare him to Haloti Ngata, and I sit there and think, wow, every time I saw Haloti Ngata play, I was like, damn, I really wish wish we had this guy. Even
that play when he broke Ben's nose.
But still, I'm
just saying the guy was dominant.
He was a dominant player.
And I really don't think he might. You'll never know if he meant to do it. But the point
he smiled afterwards. So
the point being that even though when he was playing we were like, wow, the Steelers defensive line is ridiculous. And then we'd always be like, wow, Baltimore's defensive line is really good too. So like, I look at it as like, if you got comparisons to Haloti Ngata, I want you on my team. So
Yeah.
And if he goes off the board, Devontae Wyatt, I have no problems with that.
Right.
And again, it sucks. It sucks, but this, obviously the unfortunate, and I'm going to say this 1,000 times tonight, but the unfortunate tragedy, what happened with Dwayne Haskins, really going to play into that number 20. But if they are leaning D tackle at 20, I'd be perfectly okay with either Davis or Wyatt. I will say this though, I am not okay with Travis Jones from UConn because you can't. And I'm sorry. I understand he is dominant and he looks like a good football player when he's playing against plumbers. But he's probably listening to this right now, and he's writing it down. He's like, that fucking Scarpino, fuck him. But
I'm not UMass plumbers.
I'm not. I am. Yeah, UAss plumbers. I'm not. I'm not gonna. I'm not into that pick. I'm sorry. I'm just not.
No, I wouldn't be for Jones at 20.
Not at 20.
No.
Later in the first.
I would. But
yeah,
not at. No, I'm with you, Scar.
I'm not even with him at 2.
I mean,
I'd say like 3rd or 4th, maybe.
Really?
Not 1st or 2nd. No.
Some of the draft gurus that are doing their mocks, I mean, some of them have Wyatt going in like the top 5, top 8.
Depending on the defense, he could fit very well. I mean,
the guy I like middle rounds is John Ridgway out of Arkansas.
He made the list.
Yeah, I like him. Real good size, can do a little bit of everything along the front. I mean, he's got experience playing out wide. He's got experience playing the nose a few times. So he's a guy I like. And man, as there usually is, there's a number of guys that are going to be around those 6-7 preferred free agent type guys. Haskell Garrett out of Ohio State and Chris Hinton at Michigan. Some of these guys too.
What a shock! Mark mentioned a Michigan guy.
Oh, shut up, Ian.
So here's what I'll chime in with that. Carl Dunbar went to one pro day this year, which was at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
So the name to keep an eye on there is DeMarvin Neal, probably in the second day of the draft, 2nd, 3rd round type.
Yeah.
And he's a bit better athletically than Jaden Peavy is. Peavy's a late round guy, but has a lot more size and is more just like a plug in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
The guy I like in kind of the later rounds is Thomas Booker from Stanford. He tested really well at the combine. His athletic numbers for a guy his size were off the charts. So 6'3", 301, but if you can move, if you can run a like short shuttle in 4.41 and a 3-cone in like 7.3 at 6'3", 301, like
at 300 pounds, you're an athlete.
You're moving. Yeah, you're moving and you have change of direction. You can and for that screams to me like probably more of a 5 tech than a 3 tech, but also a guy that could play on 3rd downs, that could get after the passer and could, run down the line on those outside zone plays. Because that was really something that burned us last year was our D linemen got stuck in the middle because they couldn't flow down the line and keep those gaps closed on those outside zones. So, yeah. So there's a couple names for me.
Yep. No, I Booker was a guy, I think I had him in my first mock. And for a lot of the reasons that you explained, just the size, the athleticism, and it's funny. The Steelers have not gone out west too often in the draft, if you think about it.
Well, there was that guy from Southern Cal. There was that guy from Southern Cal they took. Was that like 03, I think? In the first round. What was his name again?
He was pretty good, wasn't he?
He was pretty good.
Mike Mitchell. Mike Mitchell was his name.
Don't shit on Bobcat.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, fuck. Show
Yeah.
some respect.
Yeah, I'm just messing.
No, I know.
Anybody else in the interior, or should we move to linebackers?
Josh Paschal from Kentucky could be a third or fourth rounder. He's a little bit small for an edge, but I think he's like 3-time team captain. He's a leader. Steelers value those type of guys. They have familiarity, obviously, with drafting Bud a couple years ago. But trends matter in this game.
Absolutely.
And then I got DJ Davidson from Arizona State. I know they don't really go that late round, but they don't go west.
That school.
Yeah, that's right. You're a Wildcat. But yeah, DJ Davidson, big guy. He's a run stuffer. Could see a potential late 6th, 7th rounder. Who knows?
Let's move over to the inside backers because look, we
did not prepare for inside backers.
I don't know if they're going to take one.
I don't either. I'm not suggesting that we go too deep into it. I think. I mean, is it fair to suggest that we're definitely going to take an edge guy, though? I mean, our depth there is dog shit.
I would think so, yeah, especially after they let Taco walk, which just shocks the shit out of me.
I was very surprised by that. I mean, I thought he was okay. I mean, he didn't set the world on fire, but I thought he was.
No, but I thought for a depth piece, he was fine, right?
Yeah. The Steelers went out and got Miles Jack. They feel confident that, with Brian Flores in there, he's going to really help Devin Bush bounce back. But there's some interesting guys here. Devin Lloyd, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Chad Muma, Christian Harris. I mean, and Ian, didn't you talk a lot about Leo Chanel? Is that a guy you were mentioning once?
I do like Leo Chanel, yeah.
Real athletic dude.
Yeah.
Just a hammer.
I mean, Nakobe Dean is my guy in this draft. I mean, you just watch him play, the way he flies around to the ball, the combination of his speed and instincts is incredible. Yeah, he's a little undersized. But he's not any lighter than like Ryan Shazier was when we drafted him.
What was his 40 time at his pro day?
Nakobe Dean, he didn't.
He didn't run it at the combine,
right?
And it was like, okay, so you're small.
Yeah,
you've already got that going against you, and you're not going to run a 40 either.
Yeah. My latest info is I don't have one.
He didn't run one at his 40. He was still recovering from some injuries, so he didn't run one. Yeah. So we don't have good athletic testing numbers on Dean, but I mean,
I think Lloyd's a better athlete is the thing he's got working against him.
Yeah, Devin Lloyd out of Utah, I think, is definitely a better athlete.
He's a little light in the seat, and I think that's going to be the hard part for him.
Did you just say hard fart?
I did. Adjusting to the NFL game, it's going to be the hard part for him. But he's going to have to put on some weight, and if he can maintain that athleticism, he's going to be a really good linebacker.
Yeah, Dean to me is one of those guys that is just a football player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know that I need to see a lot of testing. I mean, you watch him against the SEC teams. I mean, he was phenomenal.
That and he's 21.
And he's 21.
Yeah.
Where Lloyd is 23, right? Yeah, he's 23 and a half.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So that plays in. He's 3.5 grade point average in engineering.
Sharp
in Georgia.
kid, really well thought of. High character kid.
Team captain,
leadership ability. Yeah.
It's a lot of boxes, man.
Honestly, this team could use an injection of leadership. I mean, they're not bad on the defensive side. They have Cam and they got a couple other guys, but you can never have too many leaders, at least in my opinion. I mean,
no, I don't either. I agree.
I don't get the sense that Devin Bush is that guy.
No, I don't necessarily.
Which sucks because when he came out, that was kind of the read on him was that he was a sharp kid, a good leader, blah blah blah. Nope.
Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
I think that all the eggs are in the Devin Bush basket.
For this season,
especially with Miles Jack this year. You got Robert Spillane coming back. He just signed his tender. Buddy Johnson still in the mix. I think I really like. We talked about this many times. If they're at 20, and I think they might take best available player. And we've talked about that. I mean, and again, we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to unfold, but like, I'm not going to object to it, Nakobe Dean, if he's there. I'm not going to object to necessarily anyone that's there. If it's Kenny Pickett, I might be like, oh, please don't.
I think they're in a great spot at 20.
But yes, like they're in like, and I say that, you know, if any Pitt fans are listening, they'll be so pissed that I said that. But I do think they're in a great spot because, like, besides Terrell Edmonds' vacancy, you know, they don't necessarily need an immediate need. So, and we're old enough to remember when you used to actually have to like not start for a year or two before you actually started with the
Steelers.
Yes. When rookies frequently were cut because they just weren't good enough.
And it's like, so I mean, I could see them going a variety of ways. I don't necessarily know if they will go inside linebacker, but I will say this, like with Miles Jack and Devin Bush, and then at least, you know, you got Robert Spillane, you know, spelling them. That's not the worst situation to be in.
I do, don't I?
Huh?
Are you talking to yourself?
Do I want more whiskey? No, I was asking you guys.
Oh, but no, I just, you know, I mean, I don't know. They got options. They do have options.
They're going to be able to kind of let everything unfold in front of them.
Unless they trade up. I mean, I
really hope they don't do that. I mean, they don't have enough picks this year or next to be throwing picks away on a trade up.
Who's a
fucking quarterback who may or may not pan out? I
mean, is there a guy in this draft that you would trade up for?
Yeah, a lot of them, but
yeah, there are some guys in the top 5 I would definitely trade up for, but none of them play quarterback.
They don't play quarterback, but you're not. If you're the Steelers, you're not going to go up into the top 5. I mean, you're basically.
I mean, you wouldn't think so, right? I mean, but you know, if you're not, because they're going to ask you who you're taking. If you're not trading up for a quarterback, the price isn't as steep, right?
Right. I mean, what if Hamilton's sitting there at 50?
I don't know. What if Neal is dropping and he's getting down to like, you know, 8 or 9? Now what?
Right.
What do we do? Do we try and trade up and get? I mean, because that's your left tackle for a decade or better.
Right.
Do you make that move? I mean,
that's what I'm throwing out there.
That would be really tempting to me. I'd be like, oh God.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of why I threw that out there, because it you know, I personally don't like it, but
I don't think it'd happen. But
no,
you know,
no.
And I'll even say that for like, if a guy like Jermaine Johnson, which I still think Jermaine Johnson will still be there at 20, comparisons to Max Crosby, he's ascending.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to object to that. I would not object to that. Like, I really do think like the only position we would object to like taking 20 forcefully is quarterback. Are we wrong? Am I wrong by saying that?
I mean, you would not object to it, and Ian would not object to it, but Mark and I would object to it.
I would probably object right now.
With Jermaine Johnson or quarterback?
Quarterback.
So no. So, but I'm saying if
Jermaine Johnson were still there at 20, that's a great value pick.
Yeah, that dude's a stud, man.
Because he shouldn't be there at 20.
No.
And basically, what that means is no.
But he's going to get nabbed. He's a great athlete.
His value is much higher than that. His value is much higher than that.
Well, pass rushers have become. Pass rushers have become
how it unfolds, exactly. So if you got a bunch of teams that are jockeying around trying to get quarterbacks because teams are so desperate for quarterback, trying to get in front of the Steelers, then a Jermaine Johnson could fall.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Then McDuffie could fall. Charles Cross could fall. One of those one of those really nice
Linderbaum.
talents. Linderbaum could
Yep.
fall. One of those really nice talents could fall to 20, and we'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like I would rather them. I guess I would say I'd rather it unfold in the way that those types of picks fall to us rather than, and I'm going to say it, rather than Kenny Pickett at 20. Because if Kenny Pickett makes it to 20, that's not a good sign.
I mean, people are going to come back to you and say Aaron Rodgers got drafted at 24.
Right.
And that's the biggest mistake the 49ers made. No, I don't know. I don't know.
Hey, did you guys see the video of Rodgers pulling a Peyton Manning where he was playing flag football about a month ago?
Eggplant
Parmesan?
No.
A high school kid picked him off and ran over and handed him the ball, and he turned around and he threw the ball at the kid like Peyton Manning in the Saturday Night Live skit. It was pretty good. I give him credit.
He was immunized.
That's pretty good.
I think he said I have immunity.
Yeah, well, Jake Kumero's not here anymore. So. Can we talk about the fact that he brought up fucking Jake Kumero and the fact that he wasn't involved in that player transaction?
Crazy.
It was Jake Kumero.
Yeah.
No disrespect. He was living his life in Bill's Mafia. But he literally was like, yeah, well, they didn't say Jake Kumero didn't us, and, Jake fucking Kumero is the straw that broke the camel's back. That's why you wanted $50 million guaranteed a year. You entitled fuck.
His MO his entire career has been pay me the most. Pay me the most. I'm the best. Everyone wants to come play with me. I'm the best. I'm the man. Everything bad that happens is someone else's fault. That is Aaron fucking Rodgers. That's why I'm glad he didn't come to Pittsburgh and didn't even consider coming to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, Ben, I think you're a dick. So
yeah, well, I'm also right, Aaron. Go fuck yourself.
No woman has ever stayed with me ever.
Speaking of him, what about Jordan Love? Is it possible he gets moved on draft day?
Yeah, that is a distinct possibility.
I see it.
I'm expecting a crazy ass first round.
I am too. I don't
Jordan
think
Love hasn't really played much, so it's kind of hard.
He's got one game.
It's kind of hard to move a guy like that when there isn't a lot of tape out there on him. Now, if he had some success, Christ, who was the guy the Seahawks traded away? No, they traded for
Drew Lock.
Not Drew Lock. Not this year.
Matt Flynn.
God, Matt Flynn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He had a little bit of a run there where he had a couple pretty good games, right?
That dude made money.
He made money out the ass.
Yeah.
Didn't he play against the Steelers on that Sunday afternoon game in Lambeau? The one that was like 38-31?
Yeah, he did, I think.
That was Flynn, wasn't it?
Random story. I'm going to tell you this because I'm drunk and I don't care.
Because I'm drunk and I don't care.
I've tweeted this.
I like these.
So we get into Green Bay 2013.
Yeah.
0-4, 2-6.
Yeah.
But somehow we're still in the mix as we get to Green Bay, right?
Yes.
You couldn't have asked for a more artistic portrait of Green Bay.
I was there, buddy. It was
snowing.
perfect.
It's blowing. I don't know whether it's fucking Pymatuming or Mercer County, Pennsylvania. I don't know, okay? All I know is we're on our way to Appleton, Wisconsin to stay at this fucking joint, okay? We get there. It is unbelievable. I'm a little bit hammered. And at the hotel bar, and Mike Tomlin comes out to me and says, hey, you remember that article from earlier this week that said we don't need Aaron Rodgers to beat the Steelers? And it was a Pro Football Talk. Mike McCarthy said we don't need Aaron Rodgers to beat the Steelers. He didn't say we don't need – he didn't say Mike – he didn't say Matt Flynn could beat the Steelers. He said we don't need Aaron Rodgers to beat the Steelers. And I said, yeah, Coach, what's up? He goes, I want you to print that motherfucker out, and I want you to put it on every defender's door, okay? Keep in mind, Dick LeBeau just recited the nightmare.
That's right.
I am a little hammered. Keep in mind, Dick LeBeau just recited the night before Christmas. And the fact that I'm a little emotional from Dick LeBeau's speech. And Tom was like, Ryan, come here. What you fucking do? So literally, I got my room list. I'm half in a bag, and I have 40 copies of this article. And I'm like, Hayward, McClendon, here you go. Walla, here you go.
That was
good. Here you go, Kiesel. I'm like Ike Taylor shoving this shit under people's doors.
That was a friggin' wild game too. That was the Ziggy Hood bat game. That was the Cortez Allen had a pick six.
Oh yeah, Cortez Allen. I'm like sliding this shit under people's doors. I'm ready to fucking run through a brick wall. I'm like, I put one under my door. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go. Tomlin told me to. No, that was Mike McCarthy's biggest mistake ever, publicly stated.
You know what I'm fascinated by is the amount of time that you were drinking while on the job. I'm starting to really
there we go.
What the hell goes on there in Pittsburgh.
Technically, it was like 9:15. So
off the
and
clock?
we're in Wisconsin. And we're in Wisconsin. What else is there to do? I had 50,000 cheese curds by the time I drank my 50th Miller Lite. So what's the difference?
That is
so I want to disagree with something Ryan said, actually. Yeah. So Ryan said he thinks it's going to be a crazy first round. I actually think it's going to be a crazy second round of the draft, because I think teams are going to wait and see who gets quarterbacks in the first round. And then if they don't get him in the first, then you might see like a Jimmy Garoppolo, a Baker Mayfield, a Jordan Love potentially moved on day 2, that, teams are going to kind of wait and see, did we get a guy we like in the first round?
I really hope that Baker does not get traded. I hope they have to cut him.
That'd be preferable, but
that would be fantastic.
For the sake of radio, I'm disagreeing with Ryan.
Would you?
Right.
That's fine. Would you, if Baker Mayfield got cut, would you sign him?
No.
I would consider it. I mean, look at the Steelers' depth chart right now.
Depending on where they're at that point.
No, I mean, honestly, I would have signed him last week, because I look at it from this standpoint. Mitchell Trubisky can do some things if he's throwing to his right, but cannot do some things when asked to do other things. So he's not a great quarterback. And I do not think that Baker is a top 16 quarterback, but he is a competent NFL starter.
Yeah.
And if he wanted to stick it to the Browns by playing in Pittsburgh for the minimum for a year, fuck yeah, I'd sign him tomorrow.
I actually found myself feeling for him a bit today. He did
the Browns fucked him. They fucked him hard.
Kid played with a torn labrum all year.
Yeah.
It's tough. I'll give him that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'll never.
I'm not saying he's a good quarterback.
Yeah. Not Johnny U.
No, let me back up. He's a good quarterback. Okay. There aren't even 32 guys that are capable of being competent NFL starters at quarterback in the world, right?
Right.
And he is one of those guys who can do that. So he's an exceptional quarterback. He's just not a great NFL quarterback. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and that's fine. Next week we'll do edge and defensive backs, and
keep these notes.
We got notes,
right? Those notes, buddy. And then 2 weeks from tomorrow night is the draft, and we will be recording while the draft is on. Shit, maybe we'll do a live show.
We've done live shows before. They've been.
I thought we started the show the last time right after the Steelers picked, or right.
Oh
before,
no, we were on. We were recording before they picked, so
we were on as they made, and we were actually
real time.
We were checking the twatter. And we knew the pick before it was announced, because someone had leaked the picks. Yeah.
Anyway, but that's the plan, and I'm going to get us on out of here for tonight. Thank you. Make sure you pay attention to SteelCityBlitz.com and on Twitter at SCBlitz. Of course, follow the podcast at SCB_podcast. And just another quick reminder, too, we talked a little bit about Dwayne Haskins and his charity. which is the wolf trap animal rescue. And it's running across the bottom of your screen right now, WTArescue.com. Please consider making a donation in Dwayne's name this week. And then, of course, they'll have a memorial for him in Pittsburgh on the 22nd. So for these gentlemen, I am signing us off. And we will be back next week for much more fun and frivolity right here. And hey, go Steelers!
Ravens suck.